alchemy, the science of understanding, deconstructing, and reconstructing matter. However, it is not an all-powerful art. It is impossible to create something out of nothing. In order to obtain something of equal value must be given. This is the law of equivalent exchange, typically ignored by the likes of GameStop trade-in clerks and the IRS. However, there is one particular taboo that has become a sacred rite of the Libratardis VirtuSignalis: human transmutation.
Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.
As I am sure many of you are already quite well aware, the Libratardis VirtuSignalis has a long and sordid history of latching on to the teat of anything that could give them even a scrap of attention. And in that never-ending quest to quench their undying thirst for validation and updates on Reddit, the VirtuSignalis discovered that they could create life from human transmutation. A new creature, one we shall call the Homunculus.
Day 74 being a girl, round of applause for the makeup.
There's no such thing as a boy or a girl.
Somehow you can be a better intersex out.
Histrionic personality disorder describes a pervasive, long-term pattern of excessive, dramatic, and often inappropriate attention-seeking behavior. But what drives the Libratardis to such antics? Studies suggest contributing factors such as brutally air-conditioned environments, an oppressive access to clean running water, and the unimaginably cruel socio-political climate that embraces the concept of the free exchange of ideas. Science tells us that a homunculus is created rather than born. That is about the extent of the actual science that will be in this video from this point on. So what method, if not scientific, you ask, did the Libratardis come up with in order to create their homunculus? Well, you see, as we covered in our previous topic, the white liberal sees their privilege as a curse. But when the usual route of posting flags in their bios and pretending to care about the trivialities of the disenfranchised suddenly isn't scratching that dopamine itch for attention, the Libratardis must undergo a sort of metamorphosis. It is no longer enough to stand tall on social media and fight for the oppressed. They must become the oppressed.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
They must
It is
become
ma'am.
a homunculus.
You will respect us.
If you run into me on the street, say hi, I'll have a tampon for you.
Among the most prominent of these homunculi would be that of Dylan Mulvaney, who actually became so oppressed that he had to suffer the indignities of life in a lavish penthouse suite, millions of followers on TikTok adoring his every move, and a sit down with the President of the United States.
It feels like Republicans have turned trans and non-binary people into this thing to blame society's downfall on.
Frankly, we're not sure how he survived. But the tragedy of Dylan Mulvaney seems to have inspired other members of the Libratardis VirtuSignalis tribe to aspire to their own level of decadent victimhood. And within the ranks of the Libratardis, there even exist parents who force their children into these transformations in order to exploit them for views and clicks. However, not every homunculus is all about bubbly personalities and crying crocodile tears in their cars on video for TikTok clout. For among them walks a particularly vile creature stalking the internet and preying on the minds of the youth. Jeffrey Marsh.
I'm Jeffrey, and I am not a danger to children.
Over the years, this painted whore of the chupacabra has incited the ire of many a concerned citizen over its proclivity for inviting children into discussions that are well above their pay grade.
There's no such thing as a boy
Ugh,
or
good
a girl.
God, please, just play the next clip. Editor, please. Oh, well, that's just not the word. Here we go. This is Dr. Yes, you heard that right. Dr. Rachel Levine.
As I settle into my role as the Assistant Secretary for Health,
Yes, this morbidly obese sin against nature of a homunculus was, in fact, in charge of the nation's health at one point. God help us all. Understandably, Levine garnered a lot of negative attention and criticism from anyone with common sense when he openly advocated for medicating children with experimental drugs and lopping off their body parts to make more homunculi.
Why can't children just wait till they're 18?
Adolescence is hard and puberty is hard. What if you're going through the wrong?
Remember when I said that the science part of this video was over with? I was telling the truth, but Levine was only one among many of the homunculi subclass and their supporters, the Libratardis VirtuSignalis, and in their zealousy and fervor they created a sort of cloistered cult-like apparatus in which only the purest among them would survive, which is why the detransitioners had probably the hardest time of all.
The transgender community tells them, you'll be part of this persecuted minority group, that you'll be, very special, loved, included. Once they
And for a time, it seemed as though the Libratardis VirtuSignalis would never relinquish their iron grip on power that allowed them to get away with these things. That is until this happened.
On the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
And then this happened.
I accept your nomination to be president.
Then this happened.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
And then finally, to the surprise of absolutely no one who was actually paying attention, this happened. And so it was, the retarded hyena was defeated by the second coming of the Krakow-Honky tribe's political Jesus. Consequently, this actually ushered in quite possibly the greatest era of free content anyone could ever ask for. Thank you for watching. This has been The Liberal Geographic. Please tune in next time when we delve deeper into the minds of the politically deranged. Ta-ta for now.
I can't believe Trump's actually gonna win this fucking thing! Oh, Jesus Christ! I'm so pissed off! Fuck! 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 God damn it!